Now at 6, disaster aid is coming to Oregon, but one of the hardest hit counties isn't on the list. Why Harney County was left out. Plus,
When I opened the door and the whole side was in flames.
Yeah, residents recounting their escape from the fast-moving Burdoin fire in the gorge. We'll have one family's story of survival coming up, and later.
I think it would be fair to say it was unexpected.
an Idaho prosecutor breaks his silence on the plea deal that ended the years-long case against Brian Koberger. Your 6 o'clock hour of sunrise starts right now. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on your Friday. I'm China Green.
And I'm Drew Carney. Chris McGinnis and Rod Hill also on board. Rob, before we get to your weekend forecast, let's check in with Chris McGinnis and a traffic alert this morning.
Yeah, guys, we've got some video into the newsroom from a crash that happened around 4:30 this morning. This is a really terrible crash scene. It looks like an SUV hitting a garbage truck head on Northeast Prescott near Northeast 55th Avenue. We understand that the driver of the SUV had to be cut out of that car and taken to the hospital. No word on the extent of their injuries, but you can see the damage done to the vehicles pretty extensive there. And as we get back live now, I can show you that at that intersection, Northeast 55th and Prescott is still shut down at this point. So your detour to get around this is going to be either Fremont to the south or perhaps Alberta or Killingsworth to the north, and we'll keep you posted on this for sure. The drive on the freeways, that's off to a pretty good start. Right now, a speed limit clip heading into downtown Portland. Rod?
All right, Chris, thanks for that update. Good morning to you. We have ourselves a nice Friday and a nice weekend coming up. We are seeing cloudiness that just continues to pour from the Columbia River down into the Willamette Valley. You can see the clouds from our Wells Fargo camera. Solid cloud cover looking off to the east this morning. 58 degrees is the temperature outside. The bricks will not be hot for several days. How about that? The Pioneer Park building looking down at Pioneer Courthouse Square. And again, temperature in the upper 50s. The clouds will be a morning thing. It is partly cloudy across parts of the area. 71 degrees at noon, sunny. And then later today, sunny. And I have us stopping at 80 for a high. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Rod. Top story here at 6 o'clock. Federal funds are on the way to help 3 southern Oregon counties recover from devastating floods earlier this year. Harney County was hard hit too, but it's not getting any of this federal money.
So Sunrise reporter Thomas Schultz joins us in the newsroom. Thomas, why is Harney County getting left out?
Well, guys, Harney County officials think the level of damage they face is being undercalculated because it's such a remote area with a small population. I spoke to officials in Burns, the largest city that is in Harney County, about that in May. Here's what they had to say.
I'm very disillusioned with the federal government.
We have a tremendous amount of repairs just on city infrastructure.
FEMA funding was approved for Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties to recover from historic flooding, landslides, and mudslides. In a statement, Governor Tina Kotek said federal resources are essential to help communities impacted by disaster to recover and prevent future devastation. FEMA stepping up to support our recovery efforts is much appreciated. While Harney County receives some state funding, officials say they can't fully rebuild without the help of FEMA. This spring, E. coli was detected in floodwaters after flooding destroyed Burns' drainage system. In May, Burns residents told me many of their neighbors packed up and left for good. Now others wonder if they should leave too.
You know, it kind of makes you think, do I want to still live here, you know? Makes us wonder.
It's really hard. I wouldn't wish this on anyone.
Burns city officials say around 500 people have been displaced in a town of less than 3,000. Drew.
All right, Thomas Schultz live for us this morning in the newsroom. Meanwhile, the city of Portland has plans in place to open up a new overnight homeless shelter downtown at the former site of St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. It's a low barrier shelter that's set to open up here in 10 days. Operation Night Watch, a nonprofit that's been operating homeless services in the area for years, bought the church building back in January. A spokesperson for the city's shelter planning branch told KGW that this new space will serve both men and women with room for 100 beds. We spoke to a woman who didn't want to be identified, but she told us overnight shelters helped her get back on her feet.
Everybody needs to sleep, and I know that these streets are deadly, you know, in a lot of different ways.
The city says it's inviting people who live in this area of downtown to come out and tour this shelter next Wednesday evening.
Meantime, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek has signed into law a statewide plan that includes more than $200 million meant to address homelessness over the next couple of years. So the State Office of Housing and Community Services will distribute and track the funds, outcomes, and set rules around how the money can be spent. The governor stressed that state and local jurisdictions need to stop relying on one-time funding sources and commit to permanently funding housing services.
This emergency that's facing our state will be with us for a while. So we need to know the direction we're headed, how we make it sustainable, and we need to evaluate if what we're doing is working.
Governor Kotek says the state is on track to pay for over 4,800 shelter beds and to get more than 3,000 people off the streets.
President Trump also signed an executive order making it easier for cities to remove homeless people from the street and involuntarily commit them to hospitals and treatment centers. This order also fast-tracks funding to communities that crack down on drug use, camping, and loitering. Last year, the Supreme Court ruled that cities can impose fines and jail time for unhoused people sleeping outside. But homeless advocates are criticizing this order, saying it deprives people of their basic human rights.
Your time now is 6:06. Level 1, 2, and 3 evacuation orders remain in place on the Washington side of the gorge for the towns of Klickitat and Wauquikus because of the Snyder Canyon fire, which was previously called the Brewer Road fire. The fire is now 13% contained and is holding at an estimated 50 acres. But about 10 miles away from that fire, on the same side of the gorge, the much larger Burdoin fire is also still burning this morning.
Yeah, containment is also at 13% for this fire, but the Burdoin fire has covered more than 11,000 acres at this point, already destroying dozens of homes. KGW's John Adams has more on this after speaking to a family who lost their home to the fire.
At a Red Cross shelter in White Salmon, siblings Stephen and Victoria Nelson feel lucky to be alive after fleeing the fast-moving Burdoin fire on Sunday.
When I opened the door, and the whole side was in flames. I didn't grab my bag or anything. I just grabbed my purse, ran up to the house to get my mama and my brother.
After escaping to safety, they received a text from a neighbor revealing their home had in fact been lost.
It's all gone.
That's what Bubba said too.
And it's hard. I'm sorry.
The Nelsons' home, one of 44 structures that have burned in the Burdoin fire. At a press conference Thursday morning, Washington Governor Bob Ferguson thanked the roughly 900 fire personnel.
We're just so deeply appreciative of the work that they do, the long hours they're putting in, the very difficult terrain that they're operating under.
As fire crews prepare for another difficult night, the Nelsons are thankful for what they still have left.
My family's alive. That's what's the most important thing to me.
In White Salmon, John Adams, KGW News.
All right, Rod, I know that you've been tracking this fire, the wind conditions, the weather conditions out there. What's the latest this morning?
Well, if you go back the last 2 or 3 days, the news is good in terms of crews report progress of containment around this fire each and every day. Not saying it's fully contained yet, but they do have containment work that's been done around the entire perimeter of it. And we talked yesterday that they focused a couple days back on clearing brush and fuels around every home that they felt like was in some sort of jeopardy, and then they cleared that brush out at least about 100 feet in many of those homes. The smoke isn't really a big factor. It's kind of laying down. This is our nearest camera from the Oregon Veterans Home in Dallas. You can see a little smoky haze right back in here. We're looking back to the west. I drove through here back on Tuesday, and even at that time, there really wasn't any smoke at all on the Oregon side of the Columbia River, so at least air quality is not suffering much as well. The winds continue to be west-northwest. They've been this way for days. They'll be this way into the weekend. There are gusts currently to 26. The wind forecast for this area shows winds gusting morning and afternoon. It's not going to get worse today. It's going to be consistent, gusting to about 30, maybe some peak gusts to about 35. So the fires, the east end of it is just before you get to Lyle. There's Lyle at 31 mile per hour wind gusts this afternoon at 5 o'clock. Otherwise, to get you going on your Friday, we have broken cloudiness in Lincoln City from our Chinook Winds Casino Resort camera, 56 degrees. We have cloudiness increasing over downtown and looking off to the east from the Wells Fargo camera. But you jump over the West Hills and I present clear skies. So that tells you that the push of low clouds along the coast coming up the Columbia River, spilling into Willamette, is not at a depth that spills actually over the West Hills. The West Hills acts like a wall, and it's sunny over in Washington County. So usually when you have that pattern, the morning clouds clear out, pretty quickly during the AM hours. Our map later today is generally sunny. This shows 81 in Salem. I think Portland could get up to about 80. Clouds more significant tomorrow, 76. Sunday, mostly sunny and 80. Nice, comfy weekend coming up. Here's Chris McGinnis.
Looks like comfortable stuff. All right, let's get you out the door, Rod. A couple of traffic alerts for the weekend. Know this, the Broadway Bridge will be closed for most of the day, Saturday, Sunday, 6 a.m. until 8 p.m. for maintenance and annual inspection. Closed to all vehicles, including the streetcar. Portland streetcar will not operate over the Broadway, obviously. The bridge will remain open for bikes and pedestrians this weekend. And on the west side, 217, this is a full closure, 8 hours. Of 217 between Greenberg Road and 99W as ODOT continues working on work to remove some of the scaffolding and whatnot around the Hall Boulevard overpass. By the way, that Hall Boulevard overpass is still on schedule, says ODOT, to open at the end of August. All right, keeping you on the west side, the drive on 217 looks pretty good. And as we look at the drive times, Drew, we're still operating at a speed limit clip on this Friday morning.
Thank you, Chris.